This happened to me and my friend around 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday, if I recall. I live in an area where not much goes on, and it's pretty safe for the most part. Anyways, me and my friend are dumb teenagers that love urban exploring. Our favorite sites to explore are tunnels. Around 7:30 p.m. one night, me and my friend were exploring some sites around the park, 2 blocks away from our house, full of small tunnels to explore. We felt a little weird because we felt as if we weren't alone. There were a couple of disc golfers, but we had just watched them leave. So at this point, the park was completely empty. My friend and I were just exiting a small tunnel to get back to the park as we were waiting for the disc golfers to leave so we could go to the next secret spot, which were train tracks that are sometimes in use. To get into the train tracks, you have to go through an off path in the woods that has a few curves, so it was hard to see. My friend led the way. A few seconds later, I thought I had lost him, so I yelled his name. Here's when things got weird. I heard what seemed almost like a distant yell or shout from the train tracks. I thought he had sped up, so I jogged up ahead and eventually ran into my buddy that was just around the curvy turn. I asked him if he was okay, and he replied yes, like nothing had happened. A little suspicion ran through my mind, so I asked him if he had yelled at me from the tracks and had come back to get me. Shockingly, he didn't. He was waiting for me just at the turn, and he also said he heard the yell. Well, my friend and I are idiots. Instead of going back, we quietly continued to the tracks. When we got up to the bridge with the train tracks, there was absolutely no one or nothing up there. Although, I felt like we were being watched from the trees or something. I let my friend know about this feeling, and we quickly stopped throwing rocks into the creek and headed back to the park. I knew something was wrong as we were leaving. I just couldn't put my finger on it. We played around on the basketball court at the park before we left. Due to the creepy vibe, my friend and I decided it was best to take the main road back instead of the shortcut through the woods that led to our neighborhood. It was around 9:30 now. My friend and I were talking about what we should do all night because he was spending the night. The park had a soccer field across the street from it, so it has 2 gravel parking lots that are sorta hidden by the trees. As we were walking past one of the gravel lots, I felt what seemed like a warning from my body. I passed it off as nothing, but as we crossed the street from the gravel lot, here's where things started getting really creepy. I could see someone come out of the shadows of the gravel lot. They had appeared to be wearing very dark clothing and a hoodie to cover their face. It was throwing red flags everywhere. The way that they came out of nowhere was so subtle and perfectly timed. It felt as if they were waiting for us to cross, to start following us. My friend hadn't seemed to notice the strange figure. I told him to jog up ahead a little. He seemed confused, so I pulled him close to me and told him what had just happened. He seemed anxious, so we picked up the pace a little. Every once in a while, I would look over my shoulder to see where he was. Every time I looked, he would be at least 3 feet closer to us. I could hear the figure's eerie breathing. Thank God we were close to an alley shortcut that no one really uses but me and my friends. To get to it, you go up a little hill left of the street. I saw this as an opportunity. I mumbled to my friend, "Use the alley." He quickly nodded yes. The second we made it to the hill, we casually jogged up ahead to the alley. I told my friend to wait for a second. I peeked over to the street from the alley, and there I saw them. What appeared to be a man in his 30s was making his way towards us very quickly. I could see his eyes now. They were staring directly at me, with an evil look. I told my friend to bolt up the damn alley to his house, which was connected to the alley. We had never ran so damn fast. We made it up the street and take a sharp turn to the left. We had lost him at this point. We sprinted through his front door and locked every single entrance. We turned off all the lights and hid for what seemed like an hour. Thank God, he was nowhere to be seen. I have never seen this person ever again, and I hope not to. This happened when I was 17. It's worth noting that I'm a 5'3" female. To give some background, I was mostly raised by my single mom. When I was young, my mom worked the graveyard shift and left me in the care of my older sister overnight. My sister was really rebellious in her teen years and would often have sketchy friends and random guys come over when she was supposed to be looking after me. There were even a couple of guys, late teens and early 20s, who tried to make a move on 9 to 11-year-old me. My mom and I were left dealing with the aftermath of having these creeps and weirdos knowing where we lived long after my sister got her act together and moved out. Suffice it to say that I had a lot of anxiety towards strangers for a long time. So, fast forward 5 or so years, and it's just me and my mom, who no longer works overnight, but still works until late at night, and about an hour drive from our house. Meaning that I was generally alone from the time I get home from school until 11 p.m. or later. During this time period, I would occasionally order dinner from one of the local pizza joints. No big deal. As previously noted, I was pretty freaked out by strangers in general, and especially strange men. I would call in my order, then put the money, with the generous tip, in an envelope and tape it to my front door with the note saying something like, "Sorry, had to step out. You can leave pizza, sandwich, whatever on the porch swing. Keep the change. Thanks." Then quietly work on my schoolwork and pretend like I wasn't home, so I didn't have to answer the door. I know. I realize this is kind of really very creepy behavior on my part. But I was more okay with being awkward than I was with someone who might be less than savory, knowing that I was home alone being easy prey. Also, I was a dumb teenager, so there's that. Now, this procedure typically allowed me to get an easy and delicious dinner while remaining safely anonymous and secure, so I figured it was a win-win. Until one evening. I ordered my food, put my note out with the money, then settled on the sofa with the book I've been reading to wait for my dinner in silence. After a while, I heard a car pull up out front and heard footsteps on the porch, followed by a brief knock on the door. This usually happened before the delivery person would spot the note and envelope. From my seat on the couch, I can see the shadowy outline of the delivery guy, I assume it's a guy, based on height and build, through the small frosted window on the front door. He opens the screen door, takes the envelope off the door, and closes the screen door again. There's a small amount of movement, but it seems like it's taking an extraordinarily long time, and he's still standing there. I'm puzzled, and a little concerned at this point. How long does it take to read 2 to 3 sentences, count the money, and put down the pizza? I mean, take the money, leave the food, and have a good night. After another minute of this person just standing outside of my door, my heart is pounding. I know he can't see me through the window. I haven't moved or made any noise to raise suspicion. What is going on? A few more seconds go by, and then it happens. He slowly opens the screen door and knocks on the front door, again. After a few seconds, I expect to hear the creak of the closing screen door, but instead see the doorknob turning. In that second, I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. The knob only turns a little as it's, thankfully, locked. But he still tries to turn it another couple of times, before letting the screen door slam shut and, finally, walking off the porch. I sit there totally stunned until I hear a car door slam. Then I bolt to my bedroom to peek out the window and try to get a good look at this dude. I can tell it is a man, but otherwise can't make out any defining features. Not that it matters, obviously. It's not like my profound social ineptitude will let up enough to allow me to call a pizza place and say, "Hey, your delivery guy tried to open my front door while I was pretending not to be home like a giant weirdo." But I guess I just wanted to check for sure that it was someone from the restaurant and not some other random person who came knocking and took my money. It wasn't. My food was on the porch when I finally recovered enough to retrieve it, which was some consolation. But I was still severely creeped out, knowing that this guy was just like, wonder if they locked the door. Or whatever. I'm 36 now, and I still get a little freaked out thinking about that day. I also get very anxious when someone knocks on my door. I just wonder what that guy's deal was.